Welcome back to the Dan Batard show. I was giving Pablo a countdown in his headphones, but he was like,
"Oh, my volume
out.
Was way down."
Yeah, you didn't know that we were starting with all the hubbub.
Oh, look at us.
Yeah, we're live, Pablo.
So, do we want to talk about what we did last night?
Yeah. Why don't you take it away? Pretend I just gave you a countdown like I just did, and start the show properly.
3, 2, 1.
What a night. I didn't want to start this way because I actually feel like I am blessed when I visit this city and get to hang out with you guys at games. I did this in April. I saw Jimmy Butler score a zillion points in the playoffs. And this time, what Leo Messi is doing is, it feels like what cryptocurrency promised us. It was like, oh, Mike was right. Diamond hands. Should have believed from the start. We're going to the moon. Leo Messi's just going to do this every single time. It's just a giant green arrow.
Here's a stat of the day. Leo Messi is 2 goals away from being in the top 10 in club history in goals for Inter Miami. Look, it's been a tough...
Doesn't he have 3 goals?
It's been a tough road to hoe for Inter Miami, even though they've made the playoffs twice in their 3 years of existence. But, yeah, you may not have known that either.
I'm a season ticket holder.
Yeah, well, the first year it was expanded because of COVID. But, look, Inter Miami have been really bad this year. Really bad. They got off to an okay start, and then they dipped in form because they had a bunch of injuries. We're starting a bunch of academy kids. And because for the last 2 years, they have been positioning this roster for this very moment. It's not like a finger snap, and they just got Messi here, and we're off to the races. There was years and years and years of work and roster construction and eating fines and penalties. Some of the heaviest MLS has ever given because of the Matuidi contract, that whole debacle, because an owner in the ownership group narked on them. It's a whole thing. But they absolutely took a bunch of L's with huge holes missing in their roster to make sure that they were positioned for this, and it seems to have worked out.
You just provided a lot of complicated backstory, which I appreciate, none of which was necessary to appreciate what we saw last night. That's kind of the thing about this story, is that you show up and you're like, oh, that guy. That is, in fact, the greatest player that has ever lived. And, in fact, he is this much better than everybody else in this sport. Whittingham was texting me after the game, we can get into the post-game, the pre-game, all that stuff later, but just the sports of it, I do want to nerd out on because it just seems clear that the promise, Mike, Chris, what we saw, the promise of no one has been this good in this sport in America ever. And in fact, he's just going to do the thing where he just scores goals whenever he wants. Scoring the game winner on a free kick in his first debut. And then just doing it on command seemingly, not once, but twice. And then if he wanted to, it seemed however many more times that he wanted to.
It's like he started a franchise mode in FIFA, and he started on easy.
Yeah, rookie mode.
And he's like, I got to make this more difficult. Because this is just like, I'm not having fun. I wanted to have success, but now it's too easy. 3-0 first half. It's like, I got to turn this up to medium.
That is a very talented Atlanta United side.
You told me this.
That was Inter Miami's
Could
first
not
ever
tell.
3-goal lead in franchise history. They won 4-0. Almada, the other reigning World Cup winner for Argentina, on the opposite side of the field that nobody was really paying attention to, miss a PK.
How about those fans leaving early, though? I mean, geez. Just a bunch of jerks.
You were one of them.
Sit it out.
You were one of them.
Yeah,
and
I
you
did.
live closer to the stadium,
Oh,
so that's a bad look, pal.
Pablo left before Messi got
We're
taken out.
doing this already.
Yeah, we're shaming each other. Pablo left for Uber purposes. I was just like, all right, Messi's gone. I can
So
go.
a couple things about this experience. Number one, it turns out that Drive Pink Stadium is not in the Uber app. And so what you got to do is go to Google Maps and you put in Drive Pink Stadium and you pull out manually, as sometimes we often do, the address that you then type in to the Uber app. And we did that. And we went there. And it was like a tire repair thing in Fort Lauderdale. And we were not alone because there's a procession of people in Messi,
Bunch
like
of Messi
Argentina
jerseys.
jerseys, walking sadly, pathetically, like the half hour that was needed to go from the mistaken address to the actual arena. Felt like a bit of an infrastructure issue.
And it's super far from Miami proper. You can
Yes.
confirm now, which I think contextually, as it's kind of gone viral. Not kind of. It has the time-lapse video of everyone leaving after Messi gets subbed out in the 75th minute. and people are using that to own folks, I say bravo for sticking through it that long,
I
because that
regret
game
nothing.
was over.
I regret nothing.
The stadium is super far, and I stayed till the end, mainly because I was an invited guest by MLS. Thank you again, everybody, for treating many of our show to that match. And also, I've been a day one season ticket holder for this club, and I haven't seen many performances like that. And I wanted to relish in that performance, and I didn't want to insult the people that put forth that performance by leaving once Messi came out. However, that being said, I understand, because I was in that parking lot for an hour after the game, all to make it out of that stadium and drive yet another hour to the populous center of Miami-Dade County. It's not easy getting there. And if you've seen some of the other matches in the League Cup where there's like 215 people in the stands, I'd say maybe let's not dunk on throngs of people leaving after 77 minutes.
2 weeks ago, Jess was making fun of how this was a Fort Lauderdale thing, not a Miami thing. And I was like, ha, 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 she's just being snide. And then I tried to get there and get home. And I was like, oh, this is very, very exactly what it is. I mean, I was going to the game in an Uber, and the left lane was a procession of about 20 cars, the sight of which caused my driver to say, oh, that's Messi.
Yeah, you would.
And I'm pretty sure it was.
You would think with that struggle that you had getting to the match, you would sit in your seat and really appreciate the greatness early on. But you missed Messi's first goal for a chicken tender. Chicken tender.
He hits me with, like, I think 6 or 7 minutes into the game, he hits me with, Chris, when are we breaking the seal?
I was
so
like,
Pablo,
hungry.
I already did.
I left early in order to make sure that the traffic was accommodated for. Under the assumption, I told Chris, I was wandering around this building that's sort of not a building, trying to make decisions on, there's no line at this hamburger place. There's no line at this $14 hot dog thing.
You got to always investigate the suite before you make any purchases.
But on my badge, it said Field Suite. And I said to myself, I'm a veteran of this game. There's going to be stuff there. And I get there, and I don't eat it, and I go outside to see the beginning of the game. I see Mike. I see Chris. I tell Chris, when are you breaking the seal? Chris informs me he already broke his seal. He's already eaten. And at that point, I'm like,
it was an awkward thing where there weren't a lot of people eating. So
no one was eating
You had that
there.
awkward feeling of like, can I or can't I?
No one was eating because the match had started. That's why no one was eating.
So what I did...
And the food was inside, away from the action, where the greatest player ever was playing soccer.
What I did...
But chicken tendies.
...was resemble the conventional wisdom that in no way is Leo Messi just going to come out here and immediately score another goddamn goal. Of course, I would have enough time to grab a chicken tender because I hosted 4 hours of goddamn radio today and haven't eaten. And instead, what I witnessed through the glass, smudged by the 100-degree humidity, is a scene unfolding that I sarcastically referred to as the history we were going to see as I was watching the caravan of Secret Service ferry literally Leo Messi in the left lane through the traffic that everybody else had to wait through. And then I burst through the door and saw Chris Cody already with his phone out, pointed at me, laughing at the fact that I had missed actual history.
I wish I had video of you head down looking at the chicken tenders, hearing the roar, and just the, oh no, the first look. I wish I just had that snapshot.
I had never felt more like a sitcom dad. Or that gif of a guy who has like a bunch of pots and pans that he's like juggling. I literally was cursing to myself, yelling, standing over a Sterno can of admittedly delicious, free, high-end, field suite chicken tenders.
What a great location we had for that goal, too. The celebration happened right in front of us.
We got to paint the scene, Mike, because we were sitting at the most corner possible location, right by the corner flag.
Not a great place to see the entire game play out and plays develop. You're pretty much fixated on one side of the pitch.
But first half goals.
But first half goals, thankfully, the toss broke our way, and we got to see all the action.
It was incredible. It was incredible. And the best part for me, as somebody who does not regret the chicken tenders, because what happened shortly thereafter was Leo Messi just scored another goal. And I got that. And I was like, okay, you guys are just going to have this in your life now? This is just what it's like to be a Miami sports fan now.
To be honest, you've seen one goal, you've seen them all, Pablo. You're good.
But he didn't see the first
Absolutely
He
not.
saw one. He saw the other one, so he saw the first one too.
Goals are different in that sport. That's big.
They're all 1 point.
Pitch is long.
Can we explain, though, why it is that Messi seemed to be completely uncovered and just able to do whatever he wanted? Like, what accounts for that?
Well, I see. There's been a lot of hyperbolic reaction. Oh, last place, Inter Miami is just going to run through the league right now if they're doing that to Atlanta. Keep in mind, they needed a last-second free kick winner against the last place in Liga MX in their previous match. I do think it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but the main difference between what happened against Cruz Azul and what happened against Atlanta United was Cruz Azul knew that was the greatest player of all time, and they threw 3 defenders at Messi, and still he dominated that match. Atlanta United decided they're just going to give Messi all the space he wants.
Apparently.
And you shouldn't do that.
Okay, if they gave him that much space, he would have scored like 5 or 6 goals, right? I mean, he only had 2. Is he really that good?
He had 2 and what, 2 assists? Is Messi really that good?
If he was really that good, they're winning this game like 10-0.
Robert Taylor is going to get a Finnish call-up. Robert Taylor's the real winner in all of this. Robert Taylor is good with the ball at his feet, but here's the thing about Robert Taylor, if you're an Inter Miami fan, he'll never pick his head up. He just looks at the ground.
But he was the one who
all
assisted
times.
on the second Messi goal.
Oh, dude,
yes?
he had a worldie to the asinine take of you've seen one goal, you've seen them all. Like Robert Taylor had an absolute worldie.
But
Score a hat trick, Messi.
I just want to know who is the most thrilled person on Inter Miami's entire organizational chart right now.
The coach. Coach of the year? Question mark? I mean, the guy is just on the sideline, just smiling.
Basically eating chicken tenders.
Just nodding, kind of like, I'm doing well so far.
I say whoever works for them that is making commission off of like ticket sales and deals, their salary just went up like 300%.
No, the certified winner is the social media director that gets to put on his LinkedIn exponential growth. During my tenure, we went from 700,000 followers on social media to 15 million. The business of Messi being in town is fascinating to me, from sitting in the seats and being able to identify different shades of pink.
Fort Lauderdale's town.
Being able to identify, oh, that's a fake jersey, that's a fake jersey.
You've already noted the bootleggers.
Yeah, well, I think one of my favorite things that I've witnessed so far on social media are all the local establishments that are using Messi's name, image, and likeness to promote ribs and wings.
Slow down on that one. Come on.
No, there's like Messi ribs. There was one Irish pub that straight up photoshopped Messi running with wings in his hand. And there's another establishment that I frequent.
That's fair use. They can do that.
Yeah, that said free pint of beer every time Messi scores 2 goals, and that one got bum rushed by folks. But I think the most curious part about this is, and I know Inter Miami have had plenty of meetings with Adidas, this week. And they've had meetings with Bayern Munich and Flamengo, and I don't know what the nature is of that. We know that there is an Adidas carve-out for Messi in his deal. But one of the more interesting facets of Messi's deal is he's supposed to get a cut of new Apple subscriptions. And it's been reported, and I have not confirmed, it's been reported that his cut is more international subscriptions than domestic. I've seen reports that Apple had boasted it finally crossed the threshold where they can revenue share with the MLS clubs. They had over 1 million subscribers. But Messi, I don't know if you saw this on his social media, he has about 480 million followers.
Every time you look up a famous soccer player's social media following, it's like 5 times what an American intuitively would guess.
Yes.
They're the most popular people on the planet.
They're by far. So this is a tweet. I want to give Fabian Renkel credit. Lionel Messi shares the MLS season pass link on his Instagram story for the very first time. According to a recent report by Sports Business Journal, the MLS season pass already boasts nearly 1 million subscribers. If just 1% of Messi's 480 million followers decide to swipe up and sign up, the subscriber base will expand to approximately 5.8 million subscribers.
Leo Messi, Apple is in business with Leo Messi because they're banking on the fact that Leo Messi will turn the MLS into his OnlyFans account.
Yes, if just 1%.
Literally, OnlyFans.
If just
OnlyFans.
1% of the people in his social media base clicked that and subscribed, and Argentina, I believe this package is accessible to them, and you had Tata Martino, you had Almada, you had Messi. It was probably a big game down there. Their subscription base would have grown 4 to 5 times. 4 to 5 times in an Instagram post. It's crazy.
Mike, it's the business model as we transition collectively into the creator economy, the subscription, on-demand, one-to-one sort of you hand me money because you're a fan of me dynamics. The question is, what would it be like if Leonardo DiCaprio had his own Patreon? What would it be like if The Rock just started a Substack? This is the closest thing it gets to actually the top of that economy, which is what if Leo Messi were to do that, but instead of Substack, it's Apple TV?
What if Chris Cody had an Instagram subscription? You never know. I do. It's great.
How's that
Slow
going?
Burn. Slow burn.
So far, the content you have is me cursing.
No, that was for free.
About chicken
the good
tenders.
stuff I can't hide. Like I need everyone to see the
You
good
didn't
stuff.
put that behind the paywall?
No.
Unfortunately for Pablo, there were plenty of free places where you could see Pablo's earnest
It
reaction.
was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to note that people on the Apple TV, the aforementioned Apple TV global broadcast, saw as soon as Leo Messi began to hug his teammates, a door swing open from a field suite, out of which pops my head yelling about chicken tenders.
See, that's why we pull out our phones. Like, in the moment, I'm always like, should I be in the moment here or pull out the phone? But then I wouldn't have gotten you scurrying out with your chicken tenders.
On my Instagram story is my view of that, because I had started recording, of course, when I burst out of the door trying to catch up, only to find that my camera was mostly capturing Chris, capturing me, all of us being captured by Apple TV's global television broadcast, potentially by billions of people across the world.
You couldn't paint a better start for this whole thing, right?
Mike, I keep on coming to Miami and thinking, like, this is a lucid dream for you guys. How can this get better? Can this be sustainable, right? Let's do that part of the story. He's doing stuff that is, even for him, beyond the pale. And, like, where does he go from here? What happens? How does the rest of this story proceed?
And they're not nearly as strong as they can be. They're missing Gregory. They're missing Jean Mota. Jordi Alba is still trying to get a visa to come over here. So they're only going to get stronger. And like I said, that was a pretty good side that they just carved up with ease. I imagine teams are going to step up, especially if they end up playing Santos in the next round, as we saw from the Cruz Azul match. I think MLS teams are going to have to respect, like, this guy means a bunch of money to us, and maybe the officials will protect Messi in that respect. But the Liga MX teams don't have to respect that, and you're going to see a lot of shithousery.
That's the question, is whether respect means disrespect by physically. Like, he's not. Look, Messi is the greatest player maybe we've ever seen on this planet. He's also not the biggest guy. Obviously, he's smaller than anybody else in this studio right now. Like, do they just try and do the thing that everybody fears?
I would like to revisit something from the first segment, which is you can't blame Miami fans for leaving early. Yes, you can. I finally have seen the video, the time-lapse video that Men in Blazers posted of all the Miami fans leaving after Messi was subbed off. That is hilarious. It never ceases to amaze me, the things that I see in the city. Well, in Fort Lauderdale.
Well, see, that's the thing. It's not in this city. And I told you firsthand, like, it took me 2 hours to get home because I didn't take the opportunity to leave 12 minutes early.
That means most people stayed then.
Most people.
What are we doing here?
Most people, dude. It's
If
also
you sat in traffic, that means the bulk of the people stayed to the end. Why
Chris,
are we
there's
criticizing?
traffic every minute of every
Not for
day,
me. Not for
everywhere
me.
in here.
Not when I left in the 75th minute. I got right at it.
I was
Chris and
probably
Tony
like
just
2
fist
feet.
pounded over
By the
that
time you
comeback.
got home, I was probably
Pounded
2
him.
feet removed from my parking
For sure.
space.
By the time Chris got home, the game was in like its 88th minute, probably.
I was on 95, and it was like, and that's it.
But it does underscore what Jess is saying. Does underscore a larger reality of this, which is that this is a Leo Messi story.
right.
This
Well,
is not
in the-
yet an Inter Miami story, Mike.
Well, in the cup competition, it's very clear to see. And granted, you see a lot of pinks, but it's certainly more Messi fans than Inter Miami fans.
100%.
But there's, again, when you see something like that, context needs to be applied. Those aren't Inter Miami season ticket holders for the most part. They have first access to tickets, but this is a separate competition, which means whole new seats, whole new people in attendance that are largely there for Messi and don't love the club in the same way. That's not a knock. That's great. They have the best attendance by far so far in this competition.
This time lapse. This could be halftime. I don't see any time. I don't see anything here that shows when in the game it is.
You have earned this reputation as a
And
collective region in South Florida. I don't care who the fans were there for. It is a funny visual, and
crowd
I'm going
still
to
looks
laugh at
full.
it, and I'm going to use it against you at some later date after today.
Men in Blazers.
It's just, it's wholly unfair because if you see any of the attendance in any of the other stadiums that are only American because this competition is inherently racist, that there's no one in attendance because they have to sell brand new tickets for these things.
There are 2 follow-ups I have to make. The latter one is the thing that Mike just mentioned. What are you talking about this competition being inherently racist?
So there's 3 countries, 2 leagues. Are any of the how many times have you seen Monterrey Stadium aggregated when it's a slow time in sports? Beautiful stadium in Mexico with rolling hills behind
Sunsets.
it. Yeah, it seems like a nice facility. Why aren't they hosting? No Mexican host cities whatsoever for a competition between these 2 leagues. It also happens at a part in the calendar where it's in the middle of the MLS season. They're in peak form, peak fitness for the most part, and it's 3 matches into the Liga MX season. So they're still working their way into fitness and form. It's not fair for the Mexican teams. If you watch historically, anytime Liga MX go up against MLS competition, predominantly CONCACAF Champions League, where in the modern era, only one MLS team has ever won that competition, is dominated by Mexican teams. León, a CONCACAF Champions League finalist, they were stuck in Canada for 2 days because flights to Los Angeles, a hub city, were just canceled. It is unfair and unfairly weighted in pro MLS side.
But all of this underscores what this is, what these games are, which is to say they're not MLS games. They're invented games for a tournament that is designed to grow soccer in North America. And the question of what are we watching here, it is kind of funny when Stugotz points out they're still 5-14 because nothing statistically is being recorded that would change that fact. It has a little bit of the NBA play-in round vibe where it's like, so these things we're watching aren't actually being etched into stone. Where are these things going to matter from the historical record perspective?
Well, I think Messi's presence in this competition is elevating it. It's the inaugural competition. I can't get enough of it. There were so many wacky things happening in this, and you had Atlas, a Mexican club, tweet out a comparison between MLS members of the press and Hitler's chief propagandist.
Oh, that's right.
Goebbels.
Yeah, and they left the tweet up for days.
Can someone explain what that was and why that person feels so strongly about it? Like, obviously, bad take. But what's the backstory
I think
here?
you're seeing a lot of frustration in that this is unfairly weighted in MLS's advantage. It's been reported that the total prize pot for this competition is $40 million, and to the winner, $2 million goes, and that is a massive pot if you're an MLS player, particularly because that's money that most average MLS players will never see. So I do think that this competition is going to end up mattering because of the person that we're all talking about here. 2 segments in, we haven't uttered any other athlete's name. It's Messi. And if they end up lifting the trophy, it'd be their first trophy in club history, and it would confirm all the casual fans' interpretation of this signing, which is plug in the best player in the world in maybe the league's 33rd, the world's 33rd best league, watch him dominate, and it's unfair. To that I say Miami did plenty of suffering to get to this point, and the notion that they don't necessarily deserve this, which I understand because they left early.
Jess cannot stop
Poor
grinning
suffering
about
Miami
this.
fans.
It's been tough. It's been really tough if you're an Inter Miami fan. And I say that, are you an Inter Miami fan? I don't know who's out there. I'm glad. Welcome
The
aboard.
bootleg
I'm a
Messi
season
jersey
ticket holder, and I'm
suggests
just like,
yeah.
kinda.
Free chicken tenders. I'm going to any game you give me to. But the theme, the storyline of last night was good vibes. I had a great time. Thank you, Mike, for setting that up. And the complaint that
Thanks
I
for
heard,
the invite.
well, that's not that's above my pay grade.
I apologize, but
I would have stayed till the 91st minute,
I don't believe you whatsoever. I don't believe you at all.
92nd minute.
The good vibes, though, were broken only by an irate Chris Cody, who did the thing that I have to follow up on now that I teased in the last segment, which is that he turns to me and he goes, "The guy who shows his phone to you."
It happened right in front of us, and I was just like, this isn't productive. It's the move of, hey, look at this post, where it's just like a meme of something I have to read, or it's like people do this with text messages a lot. Look what this person said. Just tell me what they said. I don't want to like read. Anytime someone shows me a text conversation on their phone, I'm not actually reading it. I'm just nodding along, just nodding. Just tell me what it was.
Admittedly, Tony, youtube.com/LeBatard and what I would show you on my phone is what they just showed on screen, which is a grinning Chris Cody captured on the Apple TV broadcast.
Look how happy I look. Maybe I am an Inter Miami fan.
Wait, Chris, look at this thing on my phone.
Let me see. Oh. Ooh,
In the same vein, when
interesting.
somebody shows you something on their phone and it's a video, nothing's worse than they click the video to see how much time is left
Oh, that thing.
on that video, and you're like,
That
oh shit,
is-
this is a minute and a half.
God.
Oh my god.
And then you say it's
Keep
almost
it
over.
moving.
You must
This
be
part's
bored.
good. This part's good. You get no, right here. This is the part where you have to listen.
You gotta
the
wait till the
only
end.
thing, a picture. That is the only acceptable thing to reach across and show me something. And it has to be of your dog or your kid, and that's it. I don't want to see any
I don't wanna
vistas.
see either of those.
I don't want to see any lakes. Just kids or dogs. That's it.
What's your go-to response when someone shows you a kid or a dog?
Adorable.
Aw, cute.
Cute.
Okay.
A real satisfying exchange.
In the like 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, didn't people used to come home from vacation and do like put like their photos on a projector and show the whole room?
Oh,
I think I saw that in Mad Men.
Yes,
and
the
I was like,
carousel.
is this a thing?
I used to do that My grandfather was
slideshow.
very old timey, and he had a projector.
My grandfather had one also, and like I guess you'd invite your neighbors over and be like, "Look at our trip to the Grand Canyon," and you'd be like, "Here's us at the Grand Canyon. Here's another photo of us." Is that a thing?
that was a thing. And
Yes.
you'd lay out the wine coolers, and people would have themselves an evening.
I mean, it was Instagram before Instagram. It's like, hey, come check out my feed.
Look how cool my trip was.
Yes.
Except you can only see it one time, and you're also forced to watch.
Also, remember extended vacations back before cell phones? You never knew if someone was coming back to the office. You never knew if they were alive until they returned 2 weeks later, and you're like, oh, thank God, how was it? You had no idea. Wild times.
That's like Stugotz now.
It is very much like, where is he?
That's a good question.
It's just never productive.
It has been very lonely.
These
back here.
exchanges are never productive. You never say to somebody, "Hey, someone showed me this great text chain today, and here's what I learned in it."
I think what I do is I just send it to them, and they can read it or watch it
Right,
on their
screenshots
own time.
are fine.
But I don't show anyone anything from my own phone, especially because you don't know if someone's gonna like text you, and then the preview is on, and then they're like reading your text. It's very awkward. Or if it's on your camera roll, old people love to swipe. No swiping on my phone.
Nope.
Just hand it back to me on the same photo I showed it to you on. So now if I have something I want to share with someone, I send it to them, and I'm like, look at this whenever you have time.
If you have to keep your arm extended for more than 3 seconds on a showing of a phone, it's too long. It's too much. I don't want to see it. It's a quick show. That's it. If I can see it real quick, that's good.
Everything back before the smartphone used to feel like what is now a very popular YouTube genre, which is the unboxing video. Everything was a surprise. Everything was inside of this thing is a thing we don't know about yet. Is it good? Is it bad? Everything was like that. A carousel, a photo, sending your photos to the drugstore to get them developed. Finding out, is my coworker alive coming back to work? Everything had this element of delight, and now we're at the point where we just find surprises so often that Chris Cody only has the tolerance for 3 seconds in person of that dynamic.
Tops. Preferably 1.
But if you're scrolling on your own phone, you're looking at it for a long amount of time, I assume. It's just if you're looking at someone else's phone, right,
someone
Chris?
else's, for sure.
Because your own phone, you'll scroll through other people's vacation
hours.
photos on Instagram for hours.
Yeah.
You know what I miss saying? Look how big you've gotten to kids. Because I used to go months without seeing them. But now I see their growth and development every day on social media. And it doesn't surprise me how big they've gotten. I miss that. I miss being surprised by how big they've gotten.
I hate when someone has one of those things where it's like scroll through 10 pictures and the 10th picture is the best picture. Like, what are you doing here?
Oh, Instagram usage has
TSL.
devolved into like several different types of things now. There's like the photo dump people.
I'm a photo
There's
dump
like
guy now.
Here's everything I do.
Plank guy, too.
Here's a
Not
gallery
proud,
of
but I am.
everything that I do every day in a row for like the rest of eternity. Like there's those people that are just posting constantly. And then there's like people that will just use Instagram like it's still like 2012 and they'll be like, here's my avocado toast.
Right. A
It's
single
very weird.
actual
There's no in between.
main post for every little moment is a very 2012 Instagram behavior.
There's no in between. The photo dump people, I'm with you, Chris. Sometimes I'm like, how did you choose what your first photo was?
How should
'Cause
I choose what my first photo is?
It should be your best photo. It should grab my
but
attention.
don't I need to? But this is kind
It
of
should
like
make
how
me
do
wanna
I
swipe.
But this is kind of like how do I structure a story? You want a great lead, but that kicker, you need to give them a reason to like get to the end.
The
right?
question here is, what picture should be better, picture 5 or picture 10? Obviously, you want to come out strong with number 1. We can all agree on that. But are you finishing strong? Are you going in order? So it's like number 2 is the second best
Dude,
picture?
I gotta keep you hooked. You're like 5 is intriguing.
But then
and
I'm-
6 and
you don't
7
want-
and
you
then
don't
10
want
you're
me-
like, oh
But
my
I might
God,
not
I
even
can't
make it
believe
to
I
5.
stayed.
You don't want it to get predictable, where I'm tailing out by number 3. I'm like, okay, this is clearly getting worse. Like
That's the problem, though, is that sometimes they're not getting to Jess said to number 5, and I'm like trying to tell a story of like, oh, but if you sort of like view these in the order I
It's a journey.
designed it. Like, see these episodes in the order I produced them, and you will notice that I am doing artistic sort of through lines through this. There's a narrative unfolding.
you produce that. You're going in there. You're tapping.
trying.
You're tapping them in order. You're like, no, I got to go back.
But some
I don't
people
like
aren't
this
getting
order.
to 5. And I just like an idiot with a photo
Who is your
dump.
Instagram for, Pablo? Is it for your friends and family? Is it for your fans? Is it for brands to be like, ooh, we want to pay for him to post something with our logo on it? That's what mine's for.
Roy's
by
a
the way.
photo dump
I don't
guy.
even know anymore. Though.
Roy, what's
That's
your
a great
strategy on the
question. I
photo
don't even
dump?
know.
I post single photos, except for the last one. I just post one photo at a time, and it's usually clear. That's
I've
pretty
seen
much
some
it.
multiple photos. I've seen some photo dumps from you.
No,
I'm on to you. I'm
No.
gonna investigate this.
you go ahead and do that.
How are things going on Blue Sky?
Shit sucks.
Honestly, it is like Twitter, but without the weird porn bots and like the weird, super toxic reply guys. But it's still like we're still not there yet. Like I'm still not skeeting. I'm tweeting.
Yeah, I'm not skiing.
That's what they
either.
went with?
I'm threading. I'm still a thread head, but
No one's
it's-
threading.
It's dead. Please come back.
Nah.
We need like a reels.
How many
pay or
photos
something.
to be considered a photo dump?
And the thing is, Threads is so great for
More
a
than
photo
3.
dump. You just
Yeah.
scroll,
Damn it.
scroll,
Roy
scroll,
did 3
scroll.
in his last post.
Every thread
That's
that I
just a
see
gallery.
is about how Ozempic is dangerous now. Stomach paralysis seems bad.
Oh, wow.
Wow. What?
Who could have seen that coming?
I mean, there are some people that look great. I consulted a doctor, and if I get Ozempic face, I'll just get filler. Come
What
on.
does stomach paralysis mean?
A paralyzed stomach?
It seems scary, but
Seems like what you had already.
Can we explain Ozempic to people who I think have only maybe overheard it while like
it's on.
skipping
There's
past through like a
commercials.
reel?
There's
Commercial with the
commercials of it now. Everyone
Ozempic?
knows what it is now.
Is that right?
I see commercials for Ozempic on
You do?
Hulu and on
really?
YouTube TV. Yeah,
I,
it's mainstream.
But it makes you. I guess the point is, it makes you not want to eat.
makes
Like-
you feel fuller longer, and it ruins your appetite, which is why I've made the conscious decision to not start it until after my European vacation. So your scare tactics have worked. But there are plenty of people in my space that have good things to say about it. I'd say consult your doctor and act responsibly, as I did, because I was pushed by my vanity. and my
Mike,
need
there's
to
no
be
way your
beautiful.
doctor was like, yeah, you're a candidate for this. There's no way.
I mean, Tony, we're in the Iron Temple together occasionally.
I hear you, brother. But
I play.
since
I
you're
play
a very
soccer.
healthy guy. Look at you. You're a very healthy
I carry
guy.
my weight well, thank you.
and
It's in my
there's no
ass.
way your doctor's like, you know what? Yeah,
up.
you need Ozempic.
Mike,
Mostly in my
Mike,
ass.
Mike, you've gotten so big.
I have gotten big, and it's a lot of mass. But look,
Let me see that thing.
Ass kicks ass.
Yeah.
Caboose is a little bigger, and I'm Cuban.
There are
I
multiple
stash-
C's in that
I'm
thick.
Latino, so I stash my fat in my chest and my butt, which is fine if you
Hubba
want to
hubba.
carry weight. But look, I started this anti-anxiety medicine. I was at
How is that going? Is that going all right?
that has been a godsend, but it did have a side effect that I was warned about when I did it, and my mental health situation was such that I accepted the consequences and I welcome them. But now that I am feeling better and I'm in consultation with my doctor to wean myself off, and I'm on a program to get off, because the reason why I gravitated to Lexapro was that I could one day get off of it and not be dependent on it for all my life, like some of the other medicines that were out there. Now I'm trying to get my body back, my pre-Lexapro body back. And I find it hard because of Lexapro. I've been working hard. I've been doing the intermittent fasting. I've been changing my diet. Could I do better in all these facets? Yeah. But the weight that I've gained does not correlate with the amount that I've been maybe living in excess the occasional weekend. It doesn't match up. I've gained 25 pounds on it.
My favorite part of what you said is intermittent fasting. Because I, too, have been intermittently fasting. And by that, I mean, I discovered that there's a term people use now for when you forget to eat breakfast.
Because you're working too hard.
Because you're working too hard.
Yeah, I don't eat breakfast, and I try to during the week. I'm mainly a one meal guy, or if there's lunch here,
One a
I'll just
day.
go protein on it. But it's just not it's not working for me. And I've tried the exercise,
And
I've
you,
tried the
you
diet,
need the
and
cold pharmaceutical hand of Ozempic to paralyze your stomach
I need
into
my stomach
full
paralyzed.
discipline.
I need my stomach paralyzed to get there, and naturally, the cyclical nature of prescriptions in America, or I'll probably need something for what Ozempic does to me.
You're stacking.
More than likely
So
filler.
Mark McGuire did.
More than likely filler. But look, I'm very transparent with my pursuit of perfection.
By the way, that red button that I imagine is glaring because of that sound. Is anyone else hearing that, or is it just me in my head?
Just play through it, man.
Okay, very good.
Well, in hindsight, when the fire alarm went off on Monday, we ended up being fine, right? So that's a good data point to have.
Yeah, every time they warn us that certain doom is impending, like we skate
So far.
so far,
Yeah.
which is doing
Definitely.
wonders for.
I'm pretty
my-
sure that philosophy has served the city of Miami and Fort Lauderdale well when it came to developing infrastructure for all sorts of things.
Stadium was far, right?
It was really far.
Really
They
far. People-
apologized. The kind person who ferried us into the building apologized. It's like, look, this isn't our actual stadium.
You're not allowed to weigh in on social media if you haven't made that drive from Miami-Dade County to the Drift Pink.
I can do whatever I want.
Should I know what Drip Pink is, by the way, by now?
It's an AutoNation cancer initiative they give to its Drive
jerk.
Pink.
That sounds half like a thing that is a real organization that I should be proud of.
Headline, New York Times. Is it cure to male loneliness sharing immaculate grid scores and remembering some guys like Bip Roberts with the fellas?
Bill Roberts.
Yes. Yes. So far, all I want to talk about is Messi and immaculate grid. We're in the summer, folks.
The pre-show morning meetings are a New York Times trend piece now.
We're in the summer, and the Women's World Cup matches start at 3 a.m. I'm struggling here. By the way, huge matchup tonight for the U.S. women's national team up against the Netherlands. A very difficult test, and we'll find out if we can sleep in again for the match against Portugal tonight with this 9 p.m. Eastern, very friendly start.
9 p.m. Eastern tonight, then 3 a.m. against Portugal, correct? This is the...
Yeah, it's been a really interesting tournament in that if you follow women's international competition every 4 years, like most, even I would say most soccer fans, they will pay attention to women's soccer, not in domestic leagues, maybe the occasional Champions League final. It's not super readily accessible. If you're following this competition and you're just borrowing your knowledge from what you've seen previously, you're a little confused by this because the world has gotten better. And this is an argument for pumping resources into the game and expanding your network, as we talked about the Filipinas and them just deciding we're going to go after mainly Americans.
Amin has a take on this. We're going to drag Amin in here later so we can go to geopolitical war over this. But yes, exactly. Yeah. No, there's this larger trend, right? Like, oh, wait, women's sports actually has fan bases that can support these things. And actually, if they're only given a little bit more budget, some more attention, like this is a real viable business in a world where everything is decentralized. And all you need is to support a thing with a fan base. And this clearly has it.
The U.S. has had so many injuries to their team. And as the rest of the tournament plays out, I see all these other nations get better, that I'm wondering if there's a recalibration in the sport. And I don't really know what to expect tonight against the Netherlands because the women's national team spread against Vietnam was 6.5. And they grinded out a 3-0 victory. And is that a rising tide for Vietnam? Is that the U.S. getting worse? This is a result that whatever happens tonight, that you can probably project forward and get a better understanding of it, because I'm struggling. Ireland went up 1-0 on an Olympico goal against Canada, and it looked like Canada was done and dusted, and they've battled back. But it's been a very interesting tournament in terms of people that, like myself, that thought they had a grasp on the sport, and I've been surprised by a lot of them.
Well, I think it's definitely time to expand it. Like, there is much more parity now than maybe 8 years ago. But also, I think fans, like, we just talked to Meg Linehan from The Athletic for Off the Looking Glass. The episode will be out a week from today. And she made the point that anyone who's been watching international soccer was not surprised by the U.S.-Vietnam score. I think the Alex Morgan penalty was something that, they would want back. It should have been a little bit of a higher margin. They missed a couple chances, but it wasn't. Vietnam was a more talented team than Thailand 4 years ago, which I think fans kind of were like, oh, we should be beating the crap out of every team in the group stage.
Right.
Yeah, every Southeast Asian nation we should be
which is
laying
not,
7
not
goals
the case.
on.
And also, like, she made another good point, which was that in 2015, the U.S. women's national team won the World Cup, but every game was a battle. And it's very rare. Even when you have the best roster and the best team, you're not blowing people out every single game. It's still a really tough tournament. There's a reason why winning the World Cup is very difficult to do. So the Netherlands game, yeah, it's going to be a really tough matchup. But like your point about injuries is a good one. The U.S. women's national team is missing a couple of their best players because they had season-ending injuries earlier in this year. But injuries has been the story of almost every team in this World Cup. There's a starter for the Netherlands out tonight who just got hurt. There are top stars on almost every big team that are missing this World Cup. And no one is really sure why there are so many knee injuries in the sport right now. There's been think pieces in like every newspaper
about like ACLs, right? Like,
ACL is essentially the Tommy John injury for pitchers. You're going to have, at the very least, one major knee injury.
But there's so many.
But
it
seems specific.
There's biology at play, and there's also surfaces, because the surfaces aren't as great as the men's.
Well, the murder mystery of who is killing all of these soccer players' ACLs. I mean, it's a question about gender and certainly like physiology, right? Like why is it happening at a rate that is so disproportionate in women's soccer versus men's soccer, for instance? And you're saying the surfaces are one candidate. Certainly the way the body is built is another. Is that the prevailing theory?
Those are the ones like Jess noted. There have been multiple podcasts
That's
put on this.
crazy. I mean, it is wild. It is wild, right? That like this is a thing that is.
Yeah, you can't get too attached to a young, up and coming, promising soccer
because
player
their leg might snap.
Because you know that they're at least going to have a season that's undone by injury on the club level, especially now that you can count on the regularity of the club schedule as Europe becomes more and more of a force in the women's soccer world, and as more Americans gravitate towards those more competitive leagues with bigger resources, you're going to be seeing this. And the U.S. has fallen victim to this with ill-timed injuries. You could field a team, a starting 11 with players that are unavailable to injury, and they could probably make it to the knockout round.
Oh, Ali Krieger said that the U.S. could win a World Cup with a B team and got in a lot of trouble for saying that 4 years ago, so be careful.
I just said knockout round. And look, I think the Philippines is kind of proving that if you're around the U.S. soccer program but not quite good enough to crack it, or you're just closer, whatever your reasons are for picking the Philippines, this is
because they're the best.
You can still make a deep run and surprise folks in this tournament and maybe make a knockout stage run. I thought that result from the Philippines opened my eyes to a whole new women's soccer world where New Zealand should not be dropping.
Yeah, the host nation, one of the host nations, right? Like the depth chart in American soccer at all levels when it comes to women's soccer is unbelievable. And it's something that, look, whenever we talk about the Women's World Cup, I'm glad that we're getting to a point where Mike, in his degeneracy, gambling on these games is also actually resembling what this sport should become, which is a thing that we don't just talk about in the frame of this is a cause we should support because there is this larger meta conversation around how they are enemies of the right. It's just like, I get that. I'm happy to have that conversation. But in the main, I'm like, it's also high-level sports that feels like it's worth gambling on for all the reasons you would gamble on other things.
Yeah, and a lot of networks are gambling on it. And I don't know. I saw that the ratings because the U.S. women's national team had their first match of the tournament the same time Messi had his match. And the numbers on conventional television, the Messi match was available over cable television over network television in Spanish language. I believe Univision had that. And Telemundo and Fox had the Women's World Cup match, and over conventional television, it was 5-1. The Women's World Cup won that. But as we get into these later starts with the next match against Portugal, as it's a more difficult tournament to wrap your head around, to me, as someone that is an observer of women's soccer, I know enough about it. I was excited about it. I know about the rosters. I know about the injuries. I'm still kind of at a loss and kind of feels a little bit like a fever dream to me because I can't get a hold of when these matches are starting, and it's just really hard to follow for me. And I was kind of hoping for more confirmation bias, and I'm getting smacked in the face by the tournament right now telling me, oh, you don't know shit. And I can't stay up at 3 a.m. to actually learn my shit. It's frustrating.
It is. I feel like I'm not sure what Fox's scheduling plan is going forward when the U.S. is going to be playing in the middle of the night, but it is unfortunate that I've been trying to find replays on in primetime or some sort of World Cup show, and I don't know where that is. I can't figure it out. I've been listening to podcasts and kind of like seeking out my own second screen experiences. But when I'm sitting on my couch, like wanting to watch TV at night, there haven't been very many games on when I'm trying to watch it. But at the same time, international women's soccer does not revolve around the United States. It's very important for the game to have a tournament on the other side of the world. This is huge for New Zealand and Australia. New Zealand had their first men's or women's World Cup game in the opening game, which they won. And then, of course, they lost to the Philippines in their second game. But it is really, really important to have games outside of just the United States and Europe, even though it isn't catered to my specific wants and needs.
I'm embarrassed to say this because I care deeply about how people perceive me. And I
haven't noticed, Mike.
And I want people to know that I'm well-intentioned and that I'm an ally. But I'm also more into the Leagues Cup because of the start times and also because I follow MLS and I follow Liga MX. And to me, these are dream matchups. And it's a lot easier to follow.
I don't think you have to feel guilty for wanting to watch TV at 8 p.m. versus 3 a.m. I don't think anyone's telling you you should feel bad
I'm
about
an ally.
that. You should probably – your guilt over this is telling me something – about you that I don't think is what you want us to know about.
No.
How
Look,
you feel.
Methinks the gambler doth protest too much.
I wear everything on my sleeve, and I want you to know. And I've spoken to several soccer players that are women. Several. Some of my favorites. I have a Sam Kerr jersey. I'm an ally.
Subplot from that game, as Mike the ally is establishing his credentials, is also Mike just yelling out his personal gambling updates on that game we went to.
Oh, dude. Messi to score at -150.
When I say this had
from
crypto vibes, it was because Mike was celebrating like he was watching the price of Bitcoin shoot through the roof.
Yeah. I at one point, my bookie just flatly told me no. No, we don't have action on Messi next goal.
Yeah, after Messi scored 2, Mike's like, I'm going to go for the hat trick.
Let's go for the Hattie. And where there's value, folks, if I can explain gambling to you right now in MLS player props. Messi's really good at soccer. We all know this, right? So what you're going to want to do is look at the lineup and look at the formation.
Or 2 goals.
And see, he also had 2 assists. So what you're going to want to do is say, how many of these goals are going to be unassisted? Probably not many. In fact, like one of the goals was unassisted. I had Busquets at +400 on an assist. Messi hits the ball off the post, gets his own rebound, puts it in. That's not an assist for Busquets. Not to my bookie, anyways.
I just want to point out that Chris Cody just got in my ear and whispered, actually plaintively, I need a Charger who's also a Packer.
We're really fighting back here.
We can't do another Immaculate Grid segment, guys.
Sure, but just one more.
It's a key to male. It's a solution to male loneliness. I'm going to chew on that. Was Baja Biamila an option?
The Immaculate Grid is male Ozempic is what you're saying? This is how we're all doing self-improvement?
Was Sam Shields a Charger?
No.
He wasn't.
Okay.
No. But what I'm saying is, here's some gambling advice. You're going to want to look at the formation of the players around Messi and bank on some of them getting assists, which are juicy, or some of them just having the ball hit off their forehead because Messi puts a pinpoint pass there, +300 on the day.
I feel bad for your bookie.
Akbar wasn't a Packer.